everyone.
Hello,
Welcome to episode 2 of All Things Milan. I'm your host, Angela Thomas. Today we have the pleasure of Mayor Dominic Hamden. I don't think we're going to talk a lot of mayor stuff today. We're going to talk more law office stuff. However, we all know Dominic, so he'll slide some in there on us.
You can ask me whatever you want to ask me. If it gets too personal,
I don't think so. We're just going to have some fun today.
All right.
So I don't know if you've been around Milan long enough to know that Dominic was on the city council for 8 years before becoming our mayor. So he has been serving our city for a very long time. Thank you very much.
12 years. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
I appreciate you putting a place together where people can go and learn about the city. So
yeah, I'm super excited.
There's Facebook pages out there, but you kind of get snippets here and there. What you don't hear about are, what businesses are doing or, what's happening maybe just on a much smaller level within the city. So I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely. That's totally the goal, is to kind of bring it all together in a one-stop shop where people can get information about what's going on around here.
Sure.
And I think that you and I know we're both super passionate about this town, so it's pretty exciting.
Milan has lots of passionate people. Yeah.
We are lucky like that.
Which is great. Yeah, it's great.
All right, well, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your profession and why you chose it.
So I've been practicing law for going on 18 years now. And you can start to see the gray that's starting to filter in. But I graduated from UofM with a political science degree and wanted to go on to law school in the hope that I could hopefully in the long run, maybe use the law degree to further that pursuit. When I got out of law school, I still had that desire to serve. I still wanted to serve the public. But I found a great deal of joy, and I still do, on helping people with their day-to-day lives. One of the biggest joys I have as a lawyer is when somebody leaves my office for the last time, and I can look at them and I can appreciate the fact that whatever burden they came in with is apparently lighter. And that doesn't mean that it's gone. It's very difficult for me to basically remove a burden. But if I can make it a little bit lighter and a little bit more tolerable, that's one of the most rewarding parts of my career. People coming into my office for the first time, you see pictures up. There's pictures up in the hallways all over the place from clients that have stayed in touch with me over the years. And so there's some great stories in my office. So
yeah, you definitely have a servant's heart.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Milan definitely appreciates it. What drives or motivates you to do what you do?
I think it's going to depend on the case. I do enjoy helping people. I will tell you, most people will tell you this, that I am a competitor. At the very heart of my being, I am a competitor. I love to run long distance. And it doesn't bother me to go head to head with other lawyers. And it's how I was built. And Jill Tousley, your Main Street director, is phenomenal about trying to figure out how to poke me just the right way to bring out the competitive nature in me. But I'm a competitor at the very center of my soul, and I can see it in my children too. They are the same way. My wife is the same way. Laura is the exact same way. And we complement each other very well. But, for a legal profession, you need that competitive spirit, and, it kind of fit well with me. So.
Absolutely. I love the competition.
Yeah.
And speaking of your wife, it's the ones like her that you got to be scared of, because she's a quiet competitor.
Yes, she is. One of the stories, when we were dating, we went and played putt-putt golf once, and I made the mistake of beating her. And oh my goodness, I got. It was about 4 hours of just discussions about it, and so she is a competitor. There's not a doubt in my mind.
All right. What are some odd requests you've had from clients? Obviously, without jeopardizing any client attorney relationship rights.
But I don't know if I've ever had a client came in with a really odd request. But in practicing law for 18 years, you see a lot of unusual set of facts and circumstances. But some of the more unusual ones, I had somebody that bit into a bone once in a state gordita. This was about 12, 13 years ago, maybe now. Um, Opposing counsel was telling me that it would look like a rock, which my client had to get out of the parking lot or something, and accused him of already having the broken teeth. I had to send the rock up to Michigan State to get lab tested to make sure it was bone, and it came back being bone. It was a big, huge, big chunk of bone. And so I've had some very unusual facts in 18 years. And lawyers have a lot of stories, we have a lot of stories that we like to tell, but yeah, those are a couple of the unusual ones. So.
I'm sure that it's fun every day.
You're dealing with people at a very personal level, so
Right.
But
Speaking of personal, how long have you lived in Milan?
so my wife and I moved here 15 years ago, actually closer to 16 at this point in time. We were both working in the Ann Arbor area at the time. She still works for the University of Michigan, and our families originate from Lenawee County. So I'm from Adrian, she's from Clayton. Excuse me. And so we were looking for kind of a midway point between Ann Arbor and a place to where our family was, because my parents were getting older, her parents were getting older, so we were trying to find that middle ground to where we could stay kind of close and be a little bit closer to them. And we found Milan, found our first home here, and like many people that move here, we were thinking maybe 2, maybe 3 years, and then we'd figure out someplace else to go or someplace else to move. And after about 3 years, her and I sat down and we were talking about it, and I'm like, I really don't want to go anywhere else. I really don't. And I come from a bigger city. She comes from a smaller city than Milan, but we both kind of fell in love with it after 3 years and realized, we really don't want to go anywhere. We had Ethan at the time. I think she was pregnant with Alex, and we were thinking, do we want to move into something else? And we're like, we were happy. Yeah. And we fell in love with our neighbors. We had great neighbors. We fell in love with the city. The city was in a much different place then than what it is now. Yeah. And if you're new to Milan, I would encourage you to get an idea of Milan's history. Talk to Martha Churchill. You can talk to me. Talk to any of the residents that are here. But the city is much different now than what it was 15 years ago. But we fell in love with it then. And over the last 15 years, with the progress we've made, we fell even more in love with it now than what we were then. So I don't really want to be anywhere else right now. This is my home, and I love the people that are here. So
absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I grew up here, so I definitely it has a soft spot in my heart. But I did move away, and all I did the whole time I was moved away was figure out how I could get back home. I missed Milan.
It's one of those things where when something happens to one of us, and COVID is a prime example of the pandemic. But when something happens and I've never known another city like this, but when something happens to one of us, everybody else pays attention to it. They're like, so and so has an issue, and it's, well, what do they need? Yep. Well, what they need is A, B, and C. Okay, that's fine. And you see 10, 20 people just throwing themselves at this person's issue. And we got a sense of it. We got a very good sense of it about son. I forget how old Ethan was, but most people don't realize my son was hit by a car, like right down the street down here, and that was about I think 6 years ago now. And they were coming here. They came here to have lunch with me, and then he was leaving to go back home and get hit by a car. And obviously Laura and I were just panicked, and we went up to the emergency room and waited for him, and everything turned out okay, but we were in the basement of the ER waiting for him to get clear, so I had to go upstairs to call my dad, and I literally had, it must have been 75 voicemail messages, 100 text messages, I don't know how many Facebook messages, from people just wanting to know if everything was okay. And I remember just breaking down and telling Laura, I'm like, I don't know why we'd ever want to go anywhere else. Right. Like, you're not going to get that anywhere else.
No. And actually, you might want to elaborate on this one, but what do you love most about Milan?
I can expand on what I just said, but it's the people that are here. Like I said before, when something happens to one of us, it tends to happen. Everybody else pays attention to it. And I've had plenty of occasions where I know residents were having problems. And Laura and I have just opened up and said, okay, this person has an issue. We need to figure out how we can take care of it. We've had situations and it works for the department heads and it works for your police department as well. But there were residents that had caught in COVID here very early on, and they were not leaving their home, and people were just like so and so. Already knew, but nobody wanted to talk about it publicly. But there was a resident that needed aid, so there were people going to the store, buying groceries, and bringing it over and dropping off on their porch, so that they didn't have to worry about anything for 2 weeks. And I can give you story after story of circumstances like that where there's been a resident that was in need, and somebody else just bent over to figure out how they could help them. And it's happened to me, and I've certainly made an effort to do that for other people when the time's been right and the time's came. Just amazing.
Yeah. What is something most people don't know about you?
So I got asked this exact same question by a library board like a week and a half ago, and I gave them a couple of examples, and I'll give you a different one so that you've got something else, a different portion of me. But all the intricacies of me are coming out. I collect coins. That's been out there. That's the library. So I brought them some examples of that. The other thing, one of my other passions are the flower gardens at my house. Most people don't know that as well, but one of the things I enjoy are tending to the flower gardens on the outside of my home. And I've got 3 right now. My rose bushes did not come back last year. I got to tell you, it almost broke me.
Aww.
I had 8 rose bushes and only 2 of them came back. So we'll see. Yeah, when I leave here and I need to decompress, you'll usually see me outside of my house working on one of the flower gardens. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I have a really nice landscape right now, but I'm not good at it. So maybe you want to come down.
Yeah, maybe.
If you need to decompress, I can send you to my house.
Maybe I try to figure this out. It's like there's something wrong. Like he's got this huge competitive attitude and competitive nature, long distance runner. The flip of it is he wants to sit down and just have me time in order to tend to the daylilies and the hardy lilies, and
I mean, there has to be a balance.
There has to be a balance. Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's what life's about. Why do you think it's important to shop local?
So, a former council member, when I was serving on city council, I heard something from another council member, and it was from Doug Gilson, who I was serving with at the time. And I don't know if the statistic is true, but there has to be some truth to it. But for every dollar that we spend in this city, a certain percentage of it ends up staying right here. And what I was told was the number was 20%. That was the number Doug gave me. I have no reason to contest it. It could be accurate. But we have to remember that for every dollar that we spend here, a percentage of that is staying right here. Now we have to pay our bills, we got to pay DTE, we have to do those types of things. But a percentage of that money is staying right here. So it's about making sure that we're supporting each other and supporting our local businesses. Second thing, most people also know I'm a big history buff, probably on a larger scale than what Milan is, but I can remember what Milan looked like 10 years ago, 15 years ago. I remember what the businesses look like downtown. Most people don't realize that up until even 5-6 years ago, your downtown was literally 40% occupied. And we had about 25% of the downtown, maybe 30% of the downtown that was uninhabitable. The support of the local businesses allows for it to maintain where it is now. And your Main Street in your city and the residents have done an absolutely phenomenal job on supporting the businesses even during this COVID, even during COVID and during the lockdown. The Main Street was imperative and instrumental in making sure that those businesses could thrive. And what's been even more important than that was the residents have shown up in droves to try and figure out how to keep these businesses alive and vibrant and working. The flip of that is those businesses, especially some of the restaurants, have been instrumental in supporting the residents. And so it kind of comes down to what do you love about Milan? But
right.
The residents are like, listen, the residents during COVID are telling the restaurants, hey, we know that you need support, so we're going to eat out once or twice a week. I don't know how many of the restaurants that have reached out to me that have said, we've got leftover food. We know that there's a couple of families here that are having a hard time making ends meet. We're going to deliver them dinner tonight. We just let them know. And I've had in other businesses, including during the snow crisis, when the last snow emergency we had, where we had 8 inches, where another restaurant reached out to me and said, I'm going to take care of the dinner for your DPW tonight and your PD and your fire department. I'm going to take care of their dinner tonight. So, the question comes down to, what was the question again? What was the question? What did you ask me?
The question was, why is it so important to shop local?
Oh, so it's important to shop local, quite honestly, because I remember what the city used to look like, and it's important that the residents continue to come out to support their businesses so that we can continue to have a city that's thriving. Second of all, the businesses have been instrumental in doing just the opposite, which is supporting the residents, especially during COVID. So,
it's full circle.
Just
like the whole thing of why you love Milan and all of that stuff. It is full circle. I mean,
it is.
The residents take care of the businesses take care of the residents. It's just what we do.
Yeah,
it's what we do.
It is, and it's like I said before. I mean, my wife and I settled in, and after about 3 or 4 years, we're like, I don't really want to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't blame you. All right. So this one's a little deeper.
Okay.
Who from your childhood had the biggest impact on you, and what did they teach you?
Yeah, so I've got a lot of people that, and you'll see me comment them and tag them every now and then on Facebook, but I've had a lot of people that have inspired me in a different way, one way or another. I have, most people don't know this, but I actually went to parochial school. I didn't go to public school. I had a private school, private education, and one of the things we had to take in high school was an ethics course. I had to take 4 years of ethics in order to graduate. And my old ethics teacher, Dr. Eckel, was instrumental in my life in, trying to teach me that, there is a right and there is a wrong. And everybody's goal should try to be to find the right and try to figure out how to implement it. And so I still reach out to him. I still speak to him very frequently. And I graduated 24 years ago, but I still speak with him every now and then. So he was wonderful. My father and my mother, I was born blue collar. I mean, my dad worked at a factory. My mom managed a restaurant. So they pinched every penny they could to keep me in a private education. But, my dad always used to push me and used to always tell me, you always got to be pushing and taking yourself to the next level. That has certainly carried forward into my life. That brought out the competitive nature in me. But my father would be one, Dr. Eckel would be another, but that's two. Certainly my ethics teacher and then, my parents.
Do you think that ethics class shaped law?
Certainly. And I went to a Christian school, and that's why you're taking an ethics course. And one of the things, and I have no problem telling people this, and I believe this, just because the law says that this is the way it is, doesn't necessarily mean that this is the right way for it to be.
Okay, another deep one for you.
Okay, fine.
When your life is over, how do you want to be remembered?
Christians catering up, have him cater it. I expect it to be open bar and tell stories.
We're having a party.
Yeah,
that's
what I expect. I'm 42 years old and I've done some amazing things. I've gone to whitewater rafting. My wife and I love to travel, so I've been to several different islands in the Caribbean. I've ran a couple of half marathons. I've served as your mayor. I've served as city council. I've served as chair of the fire board. So I've got a lot of things that I've done. And when the time comes for me to move on to whatever is after, so be it.
Awesome. I love it. We're having a party. That's what I heard out of all that. We're
locally sponsored too.
That's right. All right, so this is the wrap-up portion. This is just going to be some rapid-fire questions. I just want you to give me the first answer that comes to the top of your head when you hear the question.
Okay, go for it.
Single best piece of advice you ever got?
Be honorable.
There you go. What is one talent or gift you wish you possessed?
Ooh, I wish I could play the piano.
Me too.
Yeah.
What book has been most instrumental in your life?
Ooh. I read I'll give it to you. John F. Kennedy, Portrait of a Senator. I think that's the name of the book, Portrait of a Senator. But it's basically a book written by John F. Kennedy. I think he was having back surgery at the time, and he wrote, I think it's 8 independent stories of senators over the history of our country that stood out to him as exemplifying what it meant to be a senator in the United States. And great stories about senators that crossed party lines. John Quincy Adams, Lucius Quintus Cincinnatus Lamar, I think was another one. But great stories about senators who stood up against their party, stood up against other things that they knew were wrong, and voted in a manner which they thought was right or wrong, despite the pressure that was on them. So,
Awesome.
great book.
That
Very
sounds
short.
like a great book.
Very short. Maybe 100 pages, but just really good.
What movie or can you watch over and over?
The goes back to an earlier question that you asked me, which is, how do you want to be remembered when you pass away? But I would say, hands down, it's Meet Joe Black. And if you haven't seen it, it's a story about a man who's basically told by death, the angel of death, that he's going to die, and then but gives him a period of time to live, but he has to entertain him during this period of time. And the best scene in the whole movie is at the end, when the gentleman's getting ready to pass, and he looks at Brad Pitt, who's the angel of death, and goes, "Do I need to be worried?" And he looks at him and goes, "Not men like you." And "not men like you," which to me is him kind of saying, you've lived your life in such a way that you don't have to worry about what comes afterward.
You're honorable.
Yeah, you're honorable. And great movie, wonderful movie. Always makes me feel good at the end.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
It was a feel-good movie.
Yeah.
All right, last one. What is one thing left on your bucket list?
I only get one. I would like to scuba dive, which I haven't done. And I actually know where I can go. You can go right now to see Tim Schultz right down the street at Mile and Dive and get that coordinated. But there's
stay local.
Yeah, stay local. But you can actually get certified right down the street. And my wife and I have talked about it because we go to the Caribbean all the time, but the kids are too young. We've talked about doing that on plenty of occasions. But a lot of people I know go down there and do it. A lot of locals that I know go down there and do it. And when the kids are grown up and they go away to college, I suspect that'll be something I'll be doing, is going down to see Tim Schultz. So, yeah.
That'll be something fun for you and Laura to look forward to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for letting us get to know a little bit more about Dominic.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Mayor Dominic, but
Yeah.
Dominic.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Again, I appreciate you doing this. I think it's wonderful. I think we're getting new residents in the city all the time that don't know what's happening here and what Milan is all about. And it took even Laura and I a couple of years to figure out what was happening here. And so I think this is a wonderful opportunity, whether you're in the city and you've been in the city, or you're new to the city, to figure out what Milan is all about. So
thank you. And thank you guys for watching. Again, I am Angela Thomas. And if you want to find out more information, it's parkbench.com/Milan. If you're a business and you want to get interviewed like this, hop on there, parkbench.com/Milan, and we'll get you all set up. Thanks. Have a great day.
be safe, everybody.